Welcome to Buffalo Pregame, your source for live Buffalo football discussion, news, analysis, opinions, and more. Presented by ASM Publications and Bills Digest.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's Buffalo Pregame. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, here for Bills Digest and ASM Publications. On today's show, I'll be joined by former Bills wide receiver and current legend, and always legend, really, Stevie Johnson, as we discuss James Cook's three-day hold-in. We also break down the Bills wide receiver room. Also, I'll provide some injury updates on safety Cole Bishop and right tackle Spencer Brown. Each week on Buffalo Pregame, I'll provide updates on the NFL, NHL, and more via daily articles, podcast videos, and more. Please subscribe to Buffalo Pregame with Alex Brasky on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, along with the Buffalo Pregame with Alex Brasky Substack page, all of which are free of charge. All right, let's get into it. James Cook holds in at Bills camp for the third consecutive practice. And Sean will get to that in a moment as he asks, when isn't Cole Bishop injured? That is starting to become the case. But we begin with James Cook holding in for, like I said, the third straight day at practice. He was on the field and interactive, both with the media slightly and his teammates and coaches on Sunday, where after practice, a few reporters caught up with him and asked him why he wasn't participating. And he repeatedly, uttered the word business is why he was absent from practice on Sunday. And then on Monday, a brief appearance walking out of the parking lot through the medical tent, never to be seen again on Monday. And then Tuesday was a day off. Wednesday, he was a no-show, did not show up whatsoever. Sean McDermott on his morning appearance with Jeremy and Joe on WGR 550 finally announced that he would not practice. Before, he did not include James Cook in his injury/practice updates on Sunday. So there was a little bit of dubiousness surrounding his absence on Sunday. But now 3 days into this whole hold-in situation with James Cook, simply set to avoid him losing a paycheck. If he was set to hold out and not report to training camp, he would lose money each day that he wasn't here. So being quote unquote present, even though we didn't see him at all on Wednesday, we'll see if that was a hold in or a holdout for James Cook when the media talks with Sean McDermott next. But did not see him on the practice field. Strange all around, I think, to do this midway through training camp. I've said it before. Doesn't really make much sense to me. It seems like James Cook is getting bad advice from his agent. He reported to the mandatory minicamp, reported all throughout training camp leading up to Sunday, where he did not participate due to business. Still reported, but did not participate on Sunday or Monday due to business. And on Wednesday, he was a no-show. So, like I said, it could be a holdout situation now for James Cook. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network has reported that the two sides are close. The Bills and James Cook's representatives are close in negotiating this contract, but that sounds a little like agent speak to me. When you get into these NFL insiders, it's often really delivered straight from the agent, and this is what it seems to be in this case with Pelissero, just kind of parroting what James Cook's agent wants to get out there in the media as to why he's holding in and perhaps holding out. I think it's simple. James Cook saw Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys request a trade. He saw the hubbub and all the reports surrounding that and the media attention, and kind of thought that might get his own situation some legs. If he were to do a similar action as Micah Parsons, maybe not quite to the level of demanding a trade, but the hold-in and now potential holdout has certainly regenerated the media cycle surrounding James Cook's contract demands. So it seems to have made an impact in that way. And I think another thing that impacted James Cook was during the red and blue scrimmage, watching teammate Khalil Shakir go down, with a high ankle sprain, 4 to 5 weeks. That could really hamper a running back's attempt to head into week one with a head full of steam and have his best foot forward entering a critical season. So I think it's twofold. I think this is a power play by James Cook and his agent. And I also think that they saw Khalil Shakir get injured and they're going to watch him sit out for the next 4 to 5 weeks. And to be quite honest with you, James Cook can't afford that right now in his situation. If it is indeed close, the contract negotiations between he and the team, I think he's got to remain healthy. If he is unhealthy and loses that availability, he loses any type of leverage he has whatsoever. But he certainly played that leverage the past few days. We'll see how things progress here. The Bills meet again for training camp on Thursday, their final day at St. John Fisher before their preseason game coming up this weekend against the New York Giants. But I doubt we'll see him on the field on Thursday. I also doubt this gets resolved before the season. I know Tom Pelissero is reporting that, but I have a feeling that this is going to linger throughout the season into next offseason. And now with the hold-in/hold-out situation, there's a chance that this could get ugly. And I never felt that up until this point. But now 3 days of James Cook missing practice, I certainly think that there could be some ruffling of the feathers in that situation. But if you ask the players, Dawson Knox saying that he trusts Jimbo and Spencer Brown seemingly beating around the bush when it comes to that situation as well. So it doesn't seem like his teammates are all that disappointed with him at this time. But like I said, we'll see how things progress. And if James Cook's hold-in/hold-out continues as we go here. And we'll also discuss it from a player's perspective with our guest later on, Stevie Johnson, former Buffalo Bills wide receiver, current legend, and doing great things in the community. So we'll talk with Stevie later, a little bit more on the James Cook situation. But if I were to wrap it all up, I'd say this has become a confounding situation, something that has to concern the Bills unless there's been some behind-the-scenes discussions as to this is why I'm doing this. But then again, what would be the point of it all if those were to take place? So James Cook standing on business as we are here on Buffalo Pregame. I appreciate you joining us. Please like, share, subscribe the page on YouTube. It would really, really help. We've built the following on YouTube slowly but surely, hoping to keep that alive. So please like, share, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Alex Brasky or Buffalo Pregame, or a combination of the two is how you find it. Please head on over to YouTube, like, share, subscribe. Also, wherever you get your podcast, please like, share, subscribe, rate the podcast, do whatever you can to spread the word. We'll be bringing these fast and furious throughout the Bills' latest quest for a Lombardi trophy. And I was going to do this more toward the end, but Sean brings it up. When isn't Cole injured? He's been a massive letdown. I wouldn't consider him massive letdown territory quite yet. Cole Bishop was out with a shoulder injury to begin the season last year during the preseason, missed some time, really could never get his legs under him and never found his footing within that Bills secondary, and it led to him serving in a reserve role behind Damar Hamlin throughout the course of the 2024 season. And now he's dealing with a quad injury. He's missed, I believe, 4 straight practices. It all began on Wednesday, where he left through the medical tent, didn't return to action, missed Thursday, missed Friday, missed Sunday, missed Monday, and now has missed Wednesday. So maybe that's even 5 days for Cole Bishop here early in training camp. We have seen him working off to the side with trainers. So there is hope that Cole Bishop has avoided serious injury, but at the same time, availability is becoming a problem with Bishop. You look at last year with the shoulder injury and now another preseason injury, and this is kind of the second preseason injury as he dealt with something during the offseason program. I don't think we ever got clarity on it, but he missed a couple practices then. He's now missed a portion of training camp as he looks to lock down that starting role. So the longer Cole Bishop remains out, the more it becomes a concern, especially it being a quad injury. Those are tough injuries. Maybe it's just a contusion, though. Took a helmet off the leg, and maybe he'll be back. John Roberts says no need to rush Cole back, but I beg to differ. I don't think you want to rush him back. Don't get me wrong, but there is a need to get Cole Bishop back on the field. He needs to be out there. He needs to be feeling things out on this defense. That's what he's lacking right now. He's lacking that comfortability, that ability to diagnose quickly in the back end and make the right decision and make a jump on the play. He seems to be just a step behind. So I think with more time on task, I think that's only going to serve Cole Bishop well. And conversely, longer that he remains out, the more you are concerned with the Bills' potential starting safety. We don't know much. He has been working off to the side with trainers, but with he and Max Hairston out, that's now two young players in this secondary missing valuable reps that you expected to, whether it be take on a starting role this season or in the near future. So certainly the young picks in the secondary haven't seen immediate positive returns. It's still early in their careers. Don't get me wrong. The whole defense was really bolstered these past two seasons with several selections, but not good news in the back end in terms of Cole Bishop or Max Hairston. We could very well see a scenario where not only Tre'Davious White, who appears to be a shoo-in to earn the starting role now, we all saw him on Hard Knocks on Tuesday night. We'll discuss that at the tail end of this episode. But I could also see a scenario where Damar Hamlin is the starting safety for the majority of this season. If Cole Bishop can't remain on the field and the team isn't comfortable with his ability to remain available, I could see them turning to Hamlin, somebody who they find to be very, very consistent in his role, somebody who knows the defense like the back of his hand. And I just think he's consistent. He's reliable. Bobby Babich said as much the other day. So I would not be shocked if Damar Hamlin ends up this season playing the majority of the snaps at safety. But we will pump the brakes in terms of the panic with Cole Bishop, although it does seem to be he's getting a bit injury prone here. And X comments, if they turn to Hamlin, there is no Super Bowl. I'm not so sure that that's automatic there, because I don't look at Damar Hamlin as a poison pill within this defense, especially considering that Cole Bishop still has plenty to prove. I didn't see enough from Cole Bishop last year or during practices to think that he's going to come in and immediately be superior to Damar Hamlin. I think there's no doubt that his ceiling is much higher than Damar Hamlin's, but I think his floor is also very much lower. And I think we saw the floor at times last season, and now with the injury starting to crop up again, it's certainly a concern with Cole Bishop. I say certainly a lot. I was realizing that the other day. I'll try to mix it up here. But we move on, and before we get to our conversation with Stevie Johnson, I just want to broach the topic, really going back to the James Cook situation. From a player's perspective, it doesn't seem to be too much of a concern. And Stevie kind of echoed those sentiments, just kind of saying that the business is the business, and players are focused this time of year to kind of prove their own worth. So why don't we get to Stevie without further ado? Like, share, subscribe before we get to Stevie, and then we'll get to Stevie in just a few seconds. But like, share, subscribe, Buffalo Pregame, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, also on the Substack. Also, check out Bills Digest. We'll have our preseason issue coming out in a couple of weeks. But without further ado, we bring in the one, the only, Stevie Johnson. All right, here with the one and only Stevie Johnson, gracious enough to spend some few times. Bills legend, taking some time with us here on Buffalo Pregame. And Stevie, I was watching Hard Knocks last night, and I couldn't help but think you would have been made for Hard Knocks. Your personality, the way you vibe with your teammates. Do you watch Hard Knocks and say, man, that's something I wish I could have been a part of?
I mean, yes and no. You know, I don't watch it and that feeling just pop up. I just feel like it's a great opportunity for the guys of the time. You know, they earned it. You know, at the end of the day, going to multiple championship games, you know, it earned you a spot where the world want to see what's going on. When it was my time, we wasn't winning like that. It was individuals doing great things. You know, we all would want to have team victories, but you know, it didn't work that way. So when I say yes, it's like, I mean, look at how cool it looked. You know, that was amazing to see that red, white, and blue on HBO. You feel me? You don't see that at all. So it was just pretty cool to, you know, even be a part of it as a fan now. So it was cool for me, AB.
Something we didn't see on Hard Knocks, which I'm sure will probably be played up on episode 2, the James Cook contract saga, the negotiations going on behind the scenes. He started to hold in midway through camp. Can you take us in from a player's perspective? I'm not sure if you dealt with a hold in during your time for a high profile player like James Cook, but what do you think those guys' minds are working through right now, seeing one of their teammates go through a struggle, maybe not a struggle financially, but contractually, trying to get to what he wants, while also the desire to get him on the field and pursue the Super Bowl goals that they all have together?
Yeah, good question, AB. It's like, I don't think the players are worried at all. You know, they understand the business. They understand the process of contract talks. At the end of the day, when you look at his body of work, although his journey hasn't been so long right now, what is his 3rd or 4th year?
Yeah.
But what he's done is he's done things equivalent to the greats that we speak of, that we hold high. So, you know, from that perspective, they understand why he's doing what he's doing. I don't think they take any offense to it. I don't think even the players, I don't think they're in a rush to get him on the field, because we know how tough the game is. So if you running down your Ferrari, your horse from day one, it's like, okay, now you're expecting that Ferrari to be a Ferrari in week 21, I would say, because we're going deep in the playoffs. So, you know, I don't think they're worried about that. As far as contracts go, from the outside perspective, is interesting. You know, I believe it was a time where Mario Williams was going to sign, and it was like some talks on money numbers being higher or lower, et cetera. And then you would see certain things coming in from media like negative, and, you know, fans would go one way, and it is what it is. But then as soon as that person signed or put that jersey on, all of that goes out the window, and we ready to support. So that's the interesting thing about it. Like, it's probably talk of the town, or talk of people's minds on why James Cook isn't playing. But at the end of the day, when he suit up, you wouldn't even remember the words that was being said about this situation. So it's really nothing to me. I just feel like the guy's trying to get paid while he can. And if he can get it a little bit earlier, okay, can I get a little bit more earlier? Okay, why not try? You know, if you don't get it, oh well, but he tried for it.
Yeah, we kind of already saw that play out during the offseason. It was swirling going into training camp, then he suited up, and that all went away. Fans were chanting his name from the sideline, and it was all sunshine and rainbows, and now he's holding out. Little bit of contentiousness coming back, but like you said, I'm sure if it's all resolved, or even if it's not, if he shows up week 1 and he's got the jersey on, I'm sure it'll be all good. And you're right, you can't wrong him for what he's going through. These running backs rarely see a 3rd contract, so that 2nd contract to them after their rookie deal really means everything in terms of taking care of their families, taking care of their future. So it certainly makes sense what James Cook is doing in that regard, but the hold in midway through camp is a little disconcerting and questionable from my perspective. But let's shift gears here. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably just an extra tool to, you know, get more content and media around himself, maybe. I just feel like it's more of a rest thing. You know, you got to keep your guys fresh, and he understands everything that you just said, how difficult it is, how tough this season, this grind is. And to be a multiple touchdown player per game, you know, you got to rest up, and no injuries. I don't know if the NFL now is like the NBA, where if you resting without an injury, you get fined. So, you know, maybe it's just something like that. One of those things where we're using the hold in as an excuse.
Yeah, I think the hold in, as long as you're present at training camp, you don't get fined. If he were not to be present, he would be subject to fines. Okay. But that's why these players use the hold in as the tool, because that way they don't lose money. And that's what this whole thing has been about. So let's shift gears now, a little bit more positive note. You were talking about, I think, stallions and horses. Keon Coleman is going to be that horse for the Bills wide receiver core, it looks like, this year. The way that things have been playing out in training camp, the way that they've been utilizing him, he seems to have diversified his skill set a bit more than just that go up and get a guy along the sideline. What are you expecting from Keon Coleman this year? I know this is your bread and butter. Keon Coleman is a player that they bring in here looking to take this passing game to another level. You think he's capable of it this year?
Yeah, because he's shown all the signs in situations to be able to make those plays for Josh Allen, for whatever quarterback that's throwing the ball up to him in a situation where he needs to go up and get it, or to get a little bit of separation and catch it over the shoulder on a fade, take it down the sideline, as we saw in Houston. Against Arizona, being able to it was similar to a back shoulder, but it was deep down the field, making adjustments. He's got the frame. He's young. He's got everything that you need to be a playmaker, and I just feel like it's about timing. Once he continue to get all these situations in, he's going to be more comfortable in these repeated situations. So it's just a matter of time for him to, be that main guy. I would say, not that I think he cares to be the main guy, but to be the guy that we expect him to be. Like, I feel like he can be one of the greatest receivers in Buffalo history because of the attributes that he's got. But it's just about being in these situations, which is great that he's on his team, because we have Josh Allen that's led this team to great pressure situations, and it's going to happen every year. So he's just going to get better as the season go. I have no extra on Keon Coleman. He's a stud.
Yeah, and within this passing game, you might get that number one type utilization from a week to a week, but it's going to be tough to get it throughout the course of the whole season, just the way this offense operates. We mentioned James Cook earlier. They love to run the ball. They have Khalil Shakir, although he's on the mend right now. Another player they really like to get the ball a ton. I believe 80 receptions last year. So you may never see the 100 reception season from Keon Coleman, at least not at this point of his career. But I think the production and the impact that he's going to make this year is going to be, it's really going to jump off the page. Now, Let's move to another receiver, Joshua Palmer. When you get a new quarterback or you leave a team, you go to another team and you have a new quarterback that way, how long does it take, in your experience, to build that rapport? Because I think that's what we're seeing with Josh Allen and Joshua Palmer. They've been trying to utilize him throughout practice, but slowly but surely that connection has been coming along, and you saw that on Hard Knocks last night. One of the features, kind of the chemistry between those two brewing. So from your experience, how long does it take to really get on 100 with a quarterback?
From my experience, it takes a few hours. I would say 4 to 6 hours, maybe 2 days consistent, at that pro level. Right. That's what it took for me and Colin Kaepernick, to get on the same page. We, on an off day, 4 hours, we was just running routes. And it's all based on the style that you have, though. You got to understand the style you have. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to this team and I need to connect with this quarterback. Nah, so Josh Palmer, you have a certain style of how you run routes and how you show your separation ability within plays. And that's what they need to work on, not just, we call in knife or fork and that's hitches and curls and stuff. No, but how do you run that curl, not just being on the same page. And for me, I had that irky jerk kind of style. So I needed those hours to let Colin know, okay, when I do this option route, I'm going to give you something at the top so you can know that that's an indicator that I'm going to go the way that we're supposed to go. But I'm not just going to break there every time, because my style is to really create space at the top of the route, and whatever I do in between, don't let it deter you from staying with me, because it might look off, but I'm setting them up. Trust me. And that's the type of communication that Josh Palmer needs to have. What specific information they should be talking about is when it's a deep ball. Josh Palmer, from my film session, it was a lot of passes where Justin Herbert would throw a ball to him and he's got to adjust downfield, because he's trying to make the pinpoint pass. Justin and Josh got strong arms and they're very accurate, but they got to have the knowledge that, okay, with Josh Palmer, I just need to throw to a spot and let him know that I'm only throwing to a spot. So you just get there. And then that's where you will see the connection for Josh and Josh Allen, Josh Palmer and Josh Allen. For me, I was more like intermediate underneath. be the man, find the zone. So those conversations are a little bit different. His should be much simpler, with the attributes that Josh Palmer bring as a probably 6'4", 6'3", burner. He can run linear very fast. He can go up and get. He's very athletic, very healthy. This is his opportunity to be a guy, after sitting behind Keenan Allen for some years. And after watching Keenan Allen is something that should be beneficial towards him, because that's what we also need. But I wouldn't say need, because we have a guy we just signed. What's our guy that we just signed? The slot receiver.
Elijah Moore.
We got Elijah Moore. He's very shifty. Khalil is also, he's our number one, which means he should be looked at more, because he's proven it. And that happened over time. That didn't just happen because he was connecting with Josh on certain play. No, it happened over time when Gabe was here and Diggs was here and Khalil was making little plays, little third downs in the rain. That's building that trust. That's the trust that Josh Palmer has to get from Josh Allen downfield. Just throw it there, bro. I'll go get it.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. It's the style within the timing, I think, and the two meshing together. I think that's when you'll see this connection truly come together. And you're absolutely right. That's what they got Joshua Palmer for. This passing game struggled to go down the field last year. They really only had one player that they like to target consistently, especially after Keon Coleman went out, and that was Dalton Kincaid. And Josh Allen and Kincaid just couldn't seem to get on the same page. So they bring in Josh Palmer for that intermediate deep game, and we've seen that play out throughout training camp, and we'll see how that connection gets refined. But you mentioned Elijah Moore, and he hasn't even played a snap for the Bills in terms of a preseason game, but there's already an Elijah Moore hive buzzing throughout training camp, ready to see this guy in action. And he's a type of player I think that the Bills have been looking for the past several years, and he may be a higher level of that player. They've kind of picked off the scrap heap the past several years, and some may say Elijah Moore came off the scrap heap, but look at the quarterbacks he played with previously. Now getting into a Cadillac with Josh Allen calling the signals, I think he's in a much better position. So what do you think he can bring to the table? You mentioned his shiftiness. I look at him kind of maybe not the same skill set. He might be a little bit faster straight line speed than Cole Beasley. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he can be a similar player, close to the line of scrimmage, third down, easy button, get him on the field, move the chains. What do you think from Elijah Moore?
Target, you hit it right on the head. I'm gonna say a mix between Khalil Shakir and Cole Beasley. Yeah. That's who Elijah Moore is. He's a guy who can find the holes. He's been in the league enough to be route wise in situations. Should I keep running here or just sit right here and he'll get the ball to me? He's one of those IQ type of guys. So yeah, I'm gonna hit it right there on the head. He's an easy button, just like you said, extra safety valve for Josh Allen. And for this offense, I'm really excited for Coach Brady to see what he has another season under his belt. And I just want to see if he's going to get the ball out quicker. If he's going to get Josh to get the ball out quicker, like within his offensive style, whether it's a West Coast playbook or whatever, crossers, just getting out to the flats to your running backs, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson. We got a lot of weapons, even if you add Dawson Knox in there. So if you sitting back there and you patting and trying to make the right play, and that's gonna be cool. It's gonna look cool. But we're a team that let's get it out. Let's get the ball out and let them handle business, Josh. And you ain't got to worry about nothing until third or fourth quarter if needed. So that's my vision of how this team is going to come together and mesh using these pieces like Elijah Moore. Not being the main guy, but he's going to have a heavy influence on the offense to move down the field.
Yeah, no doubt, especially with all these wide receiver injuries that they've been dealing with. It's extremely tough to watch a receiver go down week after week. Now, one more question, Stevie. I guess we'll round it out to a grand scope kind of inquiry here. Where do you see the Bills this season in terms of
Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like when people, even myself, have said it in the past, Super Bowl or bust, it was kind of like a motivation type of, man, Super Bowl or bust. I'm optimistic. Everybody know I'm always optimistic. But I really feel like it's Super Bowl or bust, and I don't mean it in a bad way, because the Bills have shown every season that they're getting better and better and better, and we only run into the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's like, okay, we know if we can beat that guy, our chances are so big. We still got to win against a tough Philadelphia Eagles team, if I'm speaking from last year. But we know our chances are up there to get that Super Bowl. And if you don't get there, I think everybody on the team in that building in the city is like, oh, bust again. We busted. And it's real. So it's Super Bowl or bust for me.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I think you're spot on. I think in terms of the fans and the expectations looking from the outside in, they have to be Super Bowl or bust. It's the only mountain yet to cross here. The only reason why I'm a bit worried about it is there's a lot of things that got to go right on this team. I understand they've gotten a lot better, but they've also tried to bolster a large portion of their roster with an influx of talent this year. And whether or not that kind of plays the right way or the wrong way could really tell the story. But Stevie, I appreciate your time. You had a new podcast coming out, keeping the kids involved. I love it. I think the YMCA of Buffalo Niagara, Trainwreck Sports, X, Sheldon, Bruckman Media getting involved. So why don't you tell the people here how they can get involved, get their kids involved in this new podcast?
Yeah, indeed. You can contact the YMCA Buffalo Niagara, William Emsley, and or you can find us on social. And I got all the tags on our social page at Stevie Johnson 13. And yeah, you can come
What's
down.
What's the title of the pod?
Junior Mafia Report. The Junior Mafia Report.
Yeah.
And it's basically, it's giving the kids the opportunity to take lead amongst adults, and just providing them with that resource of being able to start your own podcast or to speak your mind, and gives us that outlet to be able to, help the kids with situations that they may go through that, they feel like they're not heard, so. I'm thankful for that team putting it together. We had our first episode out, and shout out to Taco and Malachi. They did really good, and we're only going to get better and have more fun as the season goes on.
All right, good stuff, Stevie, and appreciate you keeping the kids involved. The Junior Mafia Report. Be sure to tune in. And Stevie's also a member of Andy Young and Kevin Carroll's podcast over there at Spectrum News as well.
Yeah, so, shout out to the Buffalo End Zone crew.
Buffalo End Zone.
We're not forgetting Canada too. My guys with the broken table with TSN, man. Shout out to the whole squad. We connected. Mafia means family, like my guy Del Reed said.
There you go. All right, Stevie Johnson. Glad for him to join us. Thanks, my man.
One love.
All right, Stevie Johnson, the one, the only Bills legend, number 13. Why so serious? Everybody knows Stevie, and great stuff, great insight on the wide receiver room, great insight on the James Cook situation from a player's perspective. I thought he really hit some very key notes in both situations, so very valuable insight from him. And like I said, very grateful for his time, as I am with all of our guests. Actually, second Bills legend, I think, that we've had on the show. We had Jerry Ostrowski, now Stevie Johnson. So trying to build the old, link tree there. My mind just went blank. But anyway, let's get back to the nitty-gritty here and talk about the Bills' pass-catching core, and that's really kind of where we left off with Stevie before the Super Bowl talk. And it was the Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid show today at training camp based on all the reports, both pass catchers catching multiple touchdowns. And Kincaid, the one that struck me, was tweeted out by Sal Capaccio, I believe, or Thad Brown, one of the two. And it was a play that was reported that he faked outside on the fade and instead cut across the middle to secure the touchdown, and it was against Christian Benford, and that is so impressive. Not only the dynamics of the route, as Keon was kind of only a fade guy last year, trusted to go up and win those 50-50 battles, but also doing it against Christian Benford, a player that he struggled against on day one of training camp. He was shut out by Benford throughout that day during red zone work, and to see him respond in that exact situation just shows you the growth that this second-year wide receiver has experienced over the past couple of weeks. So very impressed by that out of Keon. And then Dalton Kincaid, one of his touchdowns, also reported by, I believe, Thad Brown and Zal Capaccio among others. Kincaid deep down the seam, and that's where I've said it time and again. I sound like a broken record, but that's where Josh Allen and he struggled last year. They struggled to connect down the seam, intermediate to deep areas, and that's what led to a low catchable ball rate for Dalton Kincaid. And if he and Josh Allen can refine that connection, smooth things out at the second and third level, this offense can become unstoppable. You see the throw made by Josh Allen to Dalton Kincaid on the Bills X page recently, and they quoted it, I believe, as let's see what it was here. I really thought it was impressive how they termed it here. Their little one-liner, so I want to get it right. Dalton can catch, and that really is what it was. So Dalton Kincaid catching a nice ball from Josh Allen deep down the middle, opening things up in the offense. So it's been very, very impressive. And just watching these two flourish throughout the offense over the past several weeks and really take another step into the forefront for this passing game. It's exactly what they need. And it's kind of two different styles. It's kind of Keon Coleman, the sports car, I termed it, but maybe a sports truck, as someone commented on one of my posts. That may be more appropriate. And then you have Dalton Kincaid, kind of like a minivan station wagon, somebody who's going to get the job done, but maybe not as flashy. I think the dynamics of this passing game, you're starting to see it come together, and the headliners have been Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman all throughout training camp. And don't overlook how good of a training camp Josh Allen has had. He's been extremely accurate. He seems to have really taken his mechanics to another level. He's finding players all over the defense, different layers of the defense against different matchups, and really using each of his receivers to their respective strengths. And it's tough not to see another MVP season coming for Josh Allen. I know based on a couple of tweets I sent out the other day, people think I hate Josh Allen. I just like to hold him to the same level of accountability as people do the head coach sometimes. But he's been so impressive these past two seasons in his automatic nature throughout training camp. It just seems to be, like I said, second nature to him, and just very impressive to watch him work. And staying on the passing game topic, I tweeted this out on my X account. I'm looking very much forward to the Christian Wilkerson, Tyrell Shavers potential battle coming up here during the preseason. A potential roster spot could be open at wide receiver, and these two have really taken turns with the open opportunity with the injuries at the position, and have taken turns making plays. Christian Wilkerson and Tyrell Shavers, both kind of soft-spoken players, just put their head down, do their work, and that's what the Bills like. And we'll see if these two can kind of have I like my man Tyrone Billums, I think his name is on X. He posted in response to my tweet, the Joker from the Batman movies, throwing the broken pool cue into the center of the gangsters and letting them fight over it. And I think that's what we could see with Tyrell Shavers and Christian Wilkerson come the preseason. But other than all that, with Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, Wilkerson, and Shavers taking turns once again, and Josh Allen throwing some nice balls, all reports point to a good day for the defense on the second to last day at St. John Fisher University. Rookie Dorian Strong, who you heard me talk about on the last episode and compared him to kind of a Christian Benford type of find for Brandon Beane and company, and he continues to back up my opinion. An interception today, albeit of fourth-string quarterback Shane Buechele, but we've seen him take incremental steps, and it might not come as quickly for Strong as it did for Benford, but I think in a few years you're going to really have trouble keeping him off the field. Just his comfortability within the scheme, not a lot of wasted movement, his coachability. He seems to spend portions of practice, whether it be before practice or after practice, with different Bills defensive backs every single day. So really absorbing that knowledge. I'm really excited for Dorian Strong's future. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to come this year, but give him 2-3 years, and the Bills are going to really struggle, I think, to keep him off the field. And another player that has really started to come along as his opportunities have been there. The Bills have been holding him back a bit, trying to keep the reins on him and keep him healthy. But Joey Bosa, another big day today. Thad Brown reporting that he's impacting the game on all 3 downs. I believe Chris Brown was also complimentary of Joey Bosa as well. It just seems like the Bills are going to be intent on using Bosa as more than a pass rush specialist, and that could help elevate this entire group. The run defense, although much maligned by the fan base at times, the stats tell you it's much better than it seems. But even with that being said, bringing in a player like Joey Bosa, his dual threat ability along that defensive line, that could bring this run stuffing unit to a whole nother level. And that's not only to mention the added additions it made in terms of rookie defensive linemen as well. So there is a need to moderate his snaps. I don't think we'll see him at all during the preseason, but come week 1 throughout the course of the season, I think he can elevate everything the Bills do up front defensively. And we already talked about Cole Bishop. He was next on my list. We'll move off of that. But John Robert, yes, Joshua Palmer does seem to be off the injury list. He had that groin issue, but seems to be back participating in team drills. And then, yes, good news that Spencer Brown is back as well. He was not a full practice, I don't believe, maybe limiting him a bit, but he was participating in team drills. And you heard Brown talk after practice how his injury came during a workout that was similar to a squat. And he said he was trying to get back to his college level strength. He sees all these young guys and said he gets a little bit jealous. And he just said he overdid it a little bit and strained a previously injured area in his back that he did have surgery on years ago. So maybe not something to be overly concerned with in terms of Spencer Brown, but he's going to have to monitor that throughout the course of the season, make sure he doesn't overdo it again and miss valuable game time throughout the course of the regular season. But just missed a few weeks of training camp, off the PUP list, and now back on the field, Spencer Brown. And you can't undervalue Spencer Brown when it comes to this entire Bills offensive line. He's become perhaps he is the most physically gifted, but now perhaps the most technically sound offensive lineman, as we heard Jerry Ostrowski talk about weeks ago. So Spencer Brown's value to this group is much, much more than what it was years ago when Bills fans were heaping criticism on him, and myself included, for a few penalties here and there and a few sacks given up on Josh Allen. But he's been money the past few years, and they got to keep him upright to keep this whole unit intact. And he was also asked about that continuity along the offensive line after practice today, and he said it's rare, but they're enjoying it there in Buffalo and really reaping the benefits of having all 5 starters back year after year. Other injury updates include Dorian Williams returning to practice for the first time since sustaining a calf injury early in camp. Had a heavy brace on his left leg, but appeared to be working back through some individual stuff. I'm not sure if he got out there for team drills. Terrell Bernard, some 11 on 11 for the first time since sustaining his hamstring injury that kept him out for a good portion of training camp. So having Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano working alongside one another, boy, oh boy, what a beautiful sight that must be for Bills fans. This could be one of the best linebacking duos in the NFL. And Sal Capaccio tweeting out a play that Milano made today just really backed up everything I saw from Milano during my time at training camp in the past few weeks. A play that they gave it to Elijah Moore, I believe, on an end around or a flare screen or something. And Milano just triggered his athleticism and acceleration and was all over Moore in the flat. And that shows you that the Matt Milano of old could be coming back. All-Pro Milano could be on his way back if he can reestablish that athleticism, that burst, that twitchiness that he's known for. And of course, you have to watch the injuries and be careful there, but all is good with Matt Milano so far, and he can really bring this defense to another level. I mentioned Spencer Brown, as Sean mentions, very much improved and great, but he's still going with Dion as being the most technically sound. You're right. Dion's certainly up there, but Brown has just come such a long way, and it's such a big body to be so fundamentally acute, I think is very impressive from Spencer Brown. But back to the Matt Milano discussion. If he can get back to anywhere close to all-pro form, he and Terrell Bernard can really wreak havoc on this league, especially if the defensive line is able to keep things clean in front of them. They brought in all that firepower up front. That, combined with Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano, could really make things easy on the back end of the Bills defense that is going through some growing pains and other type of pains with Cole Bishop and Max Hairston injured at this time. And Sean agrees he'd love to see Bernard and Milano for 17 games. That was one of my bold predictions on the Alex Brasky Buffalo Pregame with Alex Brasky Substack. I predicted that Matt Milano would play above 15 games this regular season, and I'll stand by that. He looks absolutely phenomenal during training camp thus far. A few more injuries. Balin Spector, his time with the Bills seems to have run out. He sustained another calf injury. He has a history of calf injuries, and it seems like the Bills kind of said enough's enough with Balin Spector. We wish him well. Don't wish any ill will on Balin Spector. It's a tough break, being injured time and again, but it just seems like he can't stay healthy, and the ability doesn't match the availability, and that's when you have to move on, and the Bills chose to do so in this case. Joe Andreessen and Shaq Thompson now will likely be the primary backups at linebacker. However, Shaq Thompson did miss practice today per several reports. Also, Caden Prather, Alec Anderson, Cedric Van Pran Granger, and Max Hairston also out, along with Khalil Shakir, who was in a walking boot. The Bills signed linebacker Jimmy Charlo, a former Army captain, and defensive end Justin Hollins after they waived Cameron Klein a few days ago, and then obviously waiving/injured Balin Spector today as well. But it does, as I said before, seem like Joshua Palmer and Elijah Moore both fully recovered from their respective injuries, so that's good news. But Curtis Samuel is another one who still remains out, and we heard from Joe Brady before practice say that perhaps he doesn't need to see as much from Curtis Samuel, just being a player who's been in this system for a year and has established somewhat of a rapport with Josh Allen, maybe give other guys added opportunity. But the longer he stays out with that hamstring injury and the more of these soft tissue type of injuries continue to crop up, I know it was a toe last year, but a history of soft tissue for Curtis Samuel, the more worried that you get with the veteran wide receiver. And the last injury to discuss, Tyler Bass. I heard I saw some reports that he was at practice, others that he wasn't. I don't think he kicked today. Either way, we got Ray Davis, baby. He was listed on the depth chart as the backup kicker, went 2 for 3 during the blue and red scrimmage from short range. So if worse comes to worse, you do have Ray Davis at your disposal. And John Robert, yes, Tylen Grable left practice late today. The swing tackle for the Bills. You get Spencer Brown back. Another one goes out along the offensive line. So we'll monitor Tylen Grable there. But that's about it for updates from the practice field. Forgive me if I'm missing anything. Was not able to be present today. But Hard Knocks last night. That'll be our last order of business. I thought it was kind of cut and dry from my perspective. It wasn't bad. It didn't shock me. There was nothing really revealed throughout the course of the show. But if you're a Bills fan and you love everything Bills and you love following these guys, you're going to love Hard Knocks for the next however many weeks. He had Tre'Davious White really at the forefront with his personality. The Trey Day Sunday at Pittsford Farms Dairy. He was also running hills after practice and just doing everything he can to lock down that cornerback 2 role and put himself in a good position to bounce back as a starter in his second stint with the Bills. And that's nothing but good news. It just seems like his confidence is at an all-time high, and he's the Trey White Maybe not totally the Trey White of old in ability, but the Trey White of old in confidence for sure. And one of the funniest parts of the show with KJ Hamler with the kid scooter that has since been revealed he bought at Target for $100. He just saw $100 and electric scooter, and he bought it and found out the hard way that there was a weight limit and it was a kids edition. But I think Dawson Knox said after practice that Hamler might be looking for a little bit of attention there. And we had Maddie on my X account tweet out, this could be Little Dirty reincarnated. So KJ Hamler certainly with a great sense of humor and showing through already on Hard Knocks. Another great moment, Dion Dawkins and his family, just very, very wholesome, that family. It seems like they get along so seamlessly and everything just works so well. And I'm sure they have their struggles like every other family, but whenever you see those that group interacting, it's always fun and games for the Dawkins family. And between his drifting, that's Dion Dawkins, they featured his dirt car drifting on the show. And AJ Epinesa, it was discovered he's got a hobby of hunting pythons. 11-foot python dangled over his neck after catching it. These guys are nuts. Caught that in the Florida Everglades. I don't know how Brandon Bean and Terry Bagula sleep at night with these guys' hobbies, but no, I'm just kidding. I can imagine it's more safe than it seems. It's just, my, oh my, the drifting and the 11-foot python. It's truly something else. But a few more things. They also did. Interesting, the kind of Josh to Josh combination and how that connection is starting to build, and some discussions were revealed, and it was good to kind of be a fly on the wall. For the Bills. Good. Did get his FaceTime, and he'll be back. He'll be stronger than ever. So I'm sure not a ton to worry about with Max Hairston, aside from the time he's missing, valuable time in terms of rep count on the field at practice. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I just want to leave you with this. I appreciate everybody who reached out to me on X yesterday. Been going through some tough times lately. Don't always handle them the best way. That's kind of been the story with me throughout the course of my life. But I can promise you one thing. Every single day I work to be better. And please stick with me here on Buffalo Pregame. Appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you for joining me. And we'll see you next time.